What's up, everybody? Welcome to BioS3 Raw TV Unfiltered. Today we have on the line the 7-footer giant, pro wrestler slash competitor in the NPC, Matt the Blueprint Morgan. Matt, thank you so much for being on, man. I'm a big fan, have been for a long time, and I'm psyched that you're here, man.
Dude, you kidding me? Same here. Big fan of yours, not blowing any smoke. It's an honor to be on here, honestly.
I appreciate it, man. We're going to dive right into this and get into it quick. So right now, what are your stats right now? Because you're a tall guy, but you're really lean for your size and shape too.
Yeah, normally I'm around 318. Like I always, anywhere between 318 and 325. Sometimes 312. And that's off season. When I say off season, I mean not when I'm nowhere near competing for NPC.
Right.
Like that's my normal walk around weight. And if I didn't work out, I've been 382 before, just Captain Lardass.
Wow.
You know.
And how do you feel at that weight, like 320 or whatever it is? Do you feel all right at that weight? I mean, because, while you're wrestling, people don't realize the cardio that you have in that ring. If you do a 5-minute match, I mean, if you're not in shape, you blow up in 30 seconds.
Yeah, and you know what? It's okay. It's kind of like a double-edged sword because I'm super lean right now. Like now, I got to get down to 270 to compete for classic physique. Like that's the weight cutoff for anybody 6'7" and above, which is ridiculous. It's stupid. But I'll digress. So I've got to get down there. And so while I was just wrestling last month for Impact Wrestling, I was like probably around 295, 292 at the time, and there's a big difference, and not in a good way.
Yeah.
You would think being lighter would help you blow up less, and while I'm sure that's true, my joints feel drier. Like my body, I don't feel supposed to be that lean.
Because you're getting depleted now. You're getting to the point where you're depleted.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So everything aches and hurts like 10 times worse, and that could be because I'm 40 as well. I'm sure that has something to do with it, right? But honestly, I'll give you an example. I threw a clothesline in this pay-per-view match I had last month, and just a basic clothesline. You throw the clothesline, the guy anticipates it. He's supposed to snap back, bump on his back, right, and sell it. Nothing big, right? I swear to God, it felt like I clotheslined a brick wall, and it felt like I tore my lat. I swear to God. And I went to the emergency room like way after the show was done, and I really was convinced I tore my lat muscle. That's how bad it was. It was in spasm, and it was just a major strain, it turned out. But that's what I'm talking about. I don't know if my body is built to wrestle while trying to get ready to compete.
Yeah. Well, we just talked about how I used to actually wrestle, and what part of my whole gimmick was that I looked like Buff Bagwell, and I stayed very lean. And from being lean, of course, I did do stuff like Winstrol and stuff like that back then, which is not good on the joints. And I did notice that, like my shoulder joints, my elbow joints, my knees, the joints were, taking a beating. And of course, you're a big guy too, so those levers, when you hit someone like that, if for some reason like you're depleted on carbs, vitamins, minerals, they're a little more delicate. Yeah, I can see that, definitely, becoming a problem. How long have you been training for competition now? Like not this competition, but like you've been wrestling for, years. Like it's been at least a decade, right?
Yeah, I wrestled for about 11 years straight before I retired 3 years ago. I came out of retirement, and now I'm wrestling again for Impact Wrestling, and I just did that like 3 months ago after a 3-year hiatus. But as far as training for like men's classic physique and just normal physique, which I'm going to be competing at this August 19th, I've been doing that for no more than 2 years. Okay.
And what made you decide, because now we were just talking about this before, is this is not something that people just go, well, I have nothing else to do. I'm going to decide to do a show. I'm sure you knew people around you that did it, and you're like, you guys are killing themselves. Let me try that. Like, what sparked you to decide to want to do, physique and men's physique?
I don't know if it's arrogance. I don't know if it's jealousy. I don't know what it is, but I know my wife and her friend were at a show once, and my wife competes in figure. Yeah. At least she used to. And at the time, it was like 3 years ago, and her and her friend were watching men's physique. I'm like, oh, those little pretty boys. I would beat the dog shit out of each and every one of them. Who gives a shit about these nobody, whatever. Just like a typical husband response. Hater, drinking haterade, being jealous. And my wife was like, do you know how great it would be? She goes, you know how funny it would be if you got up there and competed against those little midgets? You'd smoke them. And I was like, I've got to now do that. You know what I mean? I was like, I've got to go up and now do this. And so I busted my ass to get as lean as I could. I knew I was going against the grain to begin with by competing in men's physique. At the time, I was 300 pounds. Yeah. I got up on stage at 300 pounds before for men's physique. But the thing is I got a whole new respect for it. I got so addicted to the prep. Honestly, this part of the prep I really do like.
Yeah.
I bitch and moan about the low carb days and stuff, but at the end of the day, I like it. I like the way my body looks. And again, I'm keeping myself healthy. I'm doing this the right way as well, and that's the most important part. I'm doing it steroid free. And if I did bodybuilding, then that would be a different story. I'd have to get on a whole shit ton of gas to bring my legs up even more to match my upper body. And at 40, I'm just, to each their own, but at 40, I'm not interested in that, you know?
No, I'm on the same page with you, exactly. I went to Team Universe last year and got my ass handed to me, and everybody's like, I mean, these guys were 20 pounds heavier than me of muscle in my class. They were like 200 pounds at 5'8". And they're like, oh, you just got to get back. I said, dude, I'm 40 years old. I don't want to go back on that shit again. Right. It's just not, what's the point? You know, let's say I do beat you or whatever. Even if you turn pro, what am I going to do then? You know, like continue, I'll be dead by 45. So
I try to tell everybody that, man. I mean, to each their own, but no $2.50 trophy is worth doing that to yourself. It's just not. And if the guys don't see it now, I assure you guys that are watching this, you will see it one day, and it'll be too late to turn back.
Yeah. Now, how do you continue to wrestle and train for this? Because I used to do that. I didn't compete. I actually stopped competing while I was wrestling. But you're still training. You have to be 110% of every workout for a show.
It's very different now. Let me be very clear. If this was if I was back with WWE where I used to work, and we were on the road 5 days, and I was on the road 5 days a week, this would be next to impossible to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Competing. So what I'm doing is I'm working for the rival called Impact. It's like, do you remember what WCW used to do?
TNA, yeah, I know TNA. Yeah, Jeff Jarrett still own it, or?
Yeah, Jeff Jarrett now owns it again. Yes, and that's why I came back to support my boy Jeff, who owns the company now. And long story short, they're filming at Universal Studios, which is 20 minutes from my house, and they're doing it every 2 months. They shoot like 8 episodes every 2 months.
Oh wow!
So like the schedule is next to nothing. It's
they do them in one day. They shoot the whole 8 episodes in one day, or?
Over like I would say 3 to 4 days.
Okay.
And it's perfect. They generally do it if they do it on the weekend, it's when I can definitely partake in it.
Yeah.
And things, because I'm also working a 9 to 5, busting my ass as well. I sell laser devices as well to plastic surgeons.
Okay.
So again, very, very busy man, but like the wrestling with this company Impact, it works perfectly with my schedule. It allows me to go back and give back to the company that helped me a lot, actually. And at the same time, let my 3-year-old son come watch me wrestle.
Now, does TNA allow you to still do independent shows, or once you're in a contract with them, you're...
Yeah, but I have no desire to do. I'm not
No, like the local stuffs for charities and stuff like that, or...
Charity, yes. I actually have one coming. Yeah, I will be doing one on January 7th, I want to say. That's horrible. I don't know the date. That's horrible. But yeah, it's called Boggy Creek is the name of the actual fundraiser, actually, is what it's for. Underprivileged kids, they go to this camp called Boggy Creek. And me and a few other Impact guys that live locally are going to put on a match for them.
Oh, cool. So who's in Impact? Bobby Lashley's still there, and... There's a few other guys I remember. Last time I watched it,
Alberto now is called Alberto El Patron, but it used to be Alberto Del Rio.
Del Rio, yeah, yep.
But they lost a lot of talent. They lost the Hardys. They lost a lot of big name talents over the years. Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles. But now that was before Jeff Jarrett took over. Now that Jeff Jarrett took over, you have guys like myself that are back, guys like Magnus that are back. Mm-hmm. He's a former champion. Yep. Still on the uprise as well. Guy EC3, who I think is money.
Yeah.
A lot of good talent.
Now, again, we talked right before we went on the air, so you guys don't know, and Matt just talked for a couple seconds, and I told him, if there's anything that he was not comfortable with talking about. And one thing I didn't know, I don't even know how I didn't know this, but you said that you were a recovering addict just like myself. Now, when I first came out and started talking about this stuff, I went from, it was painkillers, which was in wrestling, and the painkillers were to something called Nubane, which all the bodybuilders were using. And the Nubane, it started out intramuscular, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you wind up mainlining it, and then it turned back to Oxycontins, which was a big thing, and then it was mainline oxys, and then eventually to heroin. That's the steps that I took. And there wasn't really anybody speaking out about it. Like, it was in the wrestling business, people knew about it, but it wasn't like, well known. And I started talking about it, and I got a really big reaction from it, because there's tons and tons of people that are struggling with painkiller addictions and other addictions too. I mean, let's face facts. If you have an addiction problem, you have an addiction problem. But I mean, as in depth as you want to go, I mean, the floor is yours, man. Whatever you want to say.
All right, it was I got released from WWE. I want to say 2005, 2006, And when I did, I went to go wrestle for New Japan Pro Wrestling, All Japan Pro Wrestling, another Japanese company called Hustle, as well as a company called NWE that was based out of Italy. So all 4 federations I was wrestling for about a year and a half of constantly going back and forth between those countries, Japan and Italy. And long story short, I always had, at this point, just so you know, I'd been a functioning addict for just about 5 years straight, meaning nothing was wrong. Like, you couldn't tell I was hooked on these drugs. Nobody could tell. If anything, I felt like Superman. These gave me a cocaine high.
How did you get hooked on them in the first place? Was it just for pain or
back spasms? Back spasms, and then honestly, a bunch of the guys in OVW would like get frigging boners if they heard that you were about to go to a doctor and get a prescription. And I never understood what the friggin', you know, what's a hard on about me getting Percocets, you know? And so stupid, almost out of boredom, I think it was. I tried more than I was supposed to be taking, and boom, I felt this floaty feeling. Yeah. Right? Like incredible feeling, awesome feeling. And I was like, this is what these guys are attracted to. I get it now. Yeah. And then I slowly but surely became a functioning addict. I never, this is crazy, for 5 years straight, I never missed a 4-hour window of dosing at least 60 mgs of either hydro or oxycodone. I always had doctors. I just had to bring in a figure or an 8x10, whatever, you name it. I saw 4 different doctors that would write me scripts for 180 pills each month. And I would blow through those sometimes. Yeah. You know, so here I am back to now I'm in Italy. Finally, for the first time in 5 years, I ran out. Oh, shit. And yeah, so I'm knocking on the doors of like, I think Sheamus was on the road. He wasn't with WWE yet. He was still an independent wrestler. I knocked on his door. I knocked on the D'Lo Brown's door. I knocked on a bunch of people's door that I respect and the hotel and asking, hey, guys, I'm not sure if you take pills or not, but do you have any pills? I'm dying here. Yeah. And the look on their faces, right? I saw like my own reflection, if you will. I saw through their eyes what they were looking at. Yeah. And I was like, I'm way too young to be that guy, that old veteran knocking on the, you know, that you see from the movie The Wrestler, begging for painkillers. You know what I mean? I was only 20-something at the time. Yeah. And I was like, this is bad. So I go back into my room, embarrassed, no pills, and I started throwing up violently. I called my wife. I begged her to find the shittiest, most dingiest rehab possible because I need the shit scared out of me is what I do. What I needed, because what was going to happen next was when I got home, I was going to start writing fake scripts. Yeah, that's where I was headed, or toward actually taking what you were doing. Yeah, that was my next step, heroin. So I saw it coming. I begged my wife. She found the shittiest place possible. She was proud of me. Put me in Orlando. What was it called? The Orlando. God dang it, that's horrible. My memory's so bad. Center for Drug-Free Living in Orlando. Downtown Orlando. It's in the hood. Yeah. And it worked. I had a roommate, this guy that went to Harvard. He was a Harvard professor, rather, I should say. And here's a dude with glasses without the thing on it here that holds his glasses up. Yeah. He's living under, he told me he was living under the I-4 underpass. Lost his family, lost his home, obviously lost his job. Yeah. And his drug was alcohol. And I needed to see another professional lose it all, you know? And it scared the shit out of me. I got close to it. Just sounds, people probably think this is just me manipulating my own self or my own brain, but I found Jesus and just begged him. I begged him. I said, if you give me another opportunity at life, and then if you give me another opportunity for whatever rhyme or reason you feel necessary in pro wrestling, I will make the most of it. I will use it as a vehicle for dare, for pal, for anything anybody I could tell my story to. Mm-hmm. I swear to you, I'll do it, you know. Get me through this, though, you know, because I was dying in that detox center. Yeah. I felt like I was going to die every day, and I could talk to nobody. So 4 weeks go by, I get discharged. Now comes the real work. I got to find outpatient treatment, and I found it through 2 different avenues. I went to the Center for Drug-Free Living outpatient treatment, and then I went and saw an actual Suboxone doctor. This was when it was brand new. Yeah,
that's when I was on it, too, when it had just come out. Yep.
And I want to clear something up. A lot of people, and you might have a different opinion on this, but I've tried it, so I know. Yeah. People think like, oh, if you take Suboxone, you're still dependent or you're still using. That's horseshit. No. I tried to take 4 Suboxone when I got out of detox, okay? Basically almost relapsing, if you will. Yeah. And I threw up blood, and I did not get high. And so I was like, this is the best thing ever. This means I'm never going to have to get high again. I just want to feel right here in the middle. and this is what this does for me.
Yeah, I didn't feel like that. From what I gather, somebody who's never taken an opiate, if they take it, they can get high. But somebody who's been addicted to opiates, once you've been addicted to it and your brain has had that opiate, it attaches to the receptor. So I had to get off the heroin and I was on methadone. And to get off the
methadone?
Yeah, I was on methadone this is before the Suboxone.
They gave me the same choice. Thank God I didn't pick that, because I would have been hooked on that.
It was that, again, that's something that I don't know if you can get high on it or not, but my dose I didn't. But I would take it, and like the pain and everything would go away for like 24 hours. And I was moving from Rhode Island to D.C., and to do that, you had to find another rehab center. But they were like, look, you can go to a psychiatrist. They'll prescribe you the Suboxone for like 3 months at a time. So I had to get off the methadone and withdraw for 3 days off the methadone in order for the Suboxone to bind to the receptor. And when they gave me the pill, like as soon as you put it under your tongue, it wasn't the strips at the time. It was these little pills that you break apart, little orange pills. And I'd take a quarter of it or whatever it was and put it, or half of it, put it on my tongue. It would dissolve, and you would feel everything just go away, and you were just normal. Right. What I didn't know is it actually kept me numb though still. Like I wasn't functioning. Like my brain still wasn't functioning properly, because after you come up from being an addict, you don't progress in that time. Like mentally, you don't progress while you're killing your pain.
But to be clear, it's not because of the Suboxone doing
right.
That. That is your brain reteaching itself how to think, you're reteaching yourself how to talk, listen, even taste. Do you remember that? Do you remember that part of it?
I remember the colors were brighter, the sounds were different, food tasted different, and I didn't realize I was so numb from the stuff that I was. Even the methadone kept you numb. And I was like, holy shit, it was like a whole new life. So I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I mean...
Yeah. No, you're not. It's exciting to talk about. There's nothing other than the birth of my 3-year-old son that I'm more proud of than beating drugs.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing. And I mean, people that have gone through it, I mean, people that haven't don't understand. They're just like, oh, just stop doing this, stop doing that. And it's like, you don't understand the pain that you go through. If you didn't go through rehab, the withdrawal pain that you would have for months before you started to finally, feel better. Like that. I mean, a couple of days, it's like having the worst flu you've ever had. I mean, imagine having the worst flu you ever had for a month. I mean, how many people would crack and go get back on something and, go back on it? So that's awesome that you decided to, like literally you saw it coming and didn't have to lose everything. Because you're right, people lose their families, their jobs. They don't get a second chance. And for me, I was watching my friends drop dead left and right and go to jail. And I was like, that's where I'm going. There's no doubt in my mind. I'm headed in that direction. What am I going to do, Right. Absolutely. So... You got off the painkillers. You were on the Suboxone. Do you stay on that now, or?
A little bit. I take one a day, but there's days I forget to take it. Even I mean. If I'm super busy, I don't remember to take it, and my doctor gets pissed at me about it.
How do you feel if you don't take it? You don't feel anything, like no withdrawals or anything, or?
No, my back might get a little shittier.
Like a little clammy kind of feeling, or no?
No, more physical pain. Not the detoxification pain that you're talking about, that clammy feeling. No.
Right.
So we started me though at pretty high. We started me, dude, like at 4 a day.
Oh shit.
And then we weeded me down, and where I'm at. Excuse me. Now I'm at where I'm at now. And again, this I've been on it for a very long time. Most people would not say, "Hey, Matt, take some." Hey, you should. I highly recommend you take Suboxone for 10 years. Right. That's a long time. So, to each their own. I just know, like, when I take it, it's not like, oh my God, I need to take it.
Right.
What's going to happen if I don't? And that's good enough for me, because that's for me, the burning desire feeling that I no longer have to feel.
Right.
I'm just listening to what my doctor's saying. My size has a lot to do with it. So is my metabolism, as far as why they had me up on so high of a dosage when I first got out. Like, I was going through that stuff so quickly.
Like, you don't feel that you're being controlled by it anymore. Now it's like the doctor explained to me, is like, if you're going to take it for the rest of your life, it's now like a vitamin. You take it every morning, and the naltrexone that's in it will keep you from wanting to get high, because it counteracts and antagonizes the opiate if you took something. And like, nobody wants to go with withdrawal, so they're like, as long as I take this, I can't take other opiates, I'm good. And a lot of people have. I just actually literally forgot to take it one morning and realized, like you, I didn't feel that bad. And I was like, wait a minute, let me see how I feel tomorrow, and if I can bear it, I'm just not going to take it anymore. And that's what I did. But mine was a little bit different. I didn't get into it specifically because I was bored. I got into it to kill pain of being molested as a kid. My cousin was killed in a drunk driving accident early. Like, a whole bunch of stuff was going on that I had to work on to learn what had caused me to want to get high. So once I got through that stuff, I didn't feel like I needed the drug to mask the pain anymore.
See, let me be clear. Part of my outpatient was seeing the doctor, and we had to uncover what was What was my reasoning? You know what I mean? There's okay, boredom was why I did it, but why did I keep doing it? Why did I like that feeling? What was I hiding? What was I masking?
Right.
And mine was being released by WWE. I should have gotten off of it a long time before that. But the pressures of being on the road, and more importantly, when I got released, I did not know how to handle that maturely. I was very pissed off and very bitter, and like, what am I going to do now? My wife's dependent on me doing this as our main income. What do I do now? You know, you can't depend on wrestling in Japan and Italy, and you're lucky if you get those gigs. And so a lot of that was that. A lot of it was mental from wrestling, honestly. But then, like you said, you got to uncover all of those. You got to go deep, and that's wild about yours. That had to have taken a long time, right?
It was a while. To this day, I still uncover things. You know what I mean? Like it's a progress. You know, it's a work in progress all the time. But you have to not be scared of it. You know, like as soon as you told me that you had the painkiller abuse, I was like, hey, as much as you want to talk about it, like I have a lot of viewers that are, you know, addicted to painkillers or cocaine or, you know, whatever it is, and they feel like they are so alone, which I'm sure you felt, you know, that night that you were knocking on doors and nobody had any painkillers. You feel alone as hell. You're like, I'm the only one here hooked on this stuff. Like, people are looking at me weird. You feel like, am I the only one that's doing this? You know what I mean? When you figure out, look, there's millions of people going through this right now, you know, like it changes your perspective. It's like, okay, now, if there's millions of people doing this, all I need to do is find one person that's gone through it and gotten past it. If they can do it, I can do it. You know, and that's kind of my message. If I can do it and I've never had a relapse, and like I stopped counting the years that I've been clean because it's over 15 years. So I just stopped counting. So I'm like, if I can do it without relapsing, you know, and do the work behind it, then pretty much anybody can do it.
And the other part I shouldn't leave out, because it was very helpful to me at the very first 90 days, was I went to a meeting at NA. Some people choose AA. Some people like that better for whatever rhyme or reason. Depends where you live, I guess. But I went to NA and I sought out after. Again, I wanted to see another professional who's got their life back on track while battling addiction. And there was a lot of, I don't want to sound like arrogant or anything, but there was a lot of, like, I don't want to say run down, but a lot of people them staying sober was their job almost. Like these guys didn't have 9 to 5s, a lot of them. And I finally found one he was a car dealer. He sold cars, slick suits, looked like $1 million, and was very good at his job. You know, he sold Lexuses. And so I worked with him, and he became my sponsor. And I only called upon him like 2 or 3 times during some white knuckle moments. But anytime I had that, I had so many different options. I had the Bible to go to. And again, I had my own NA book. You know, I had a lot of different things to go to, a lot of resources, if you will.
I think the hardest thing is, you know, you have these outside sources, but you have to have it within you to fight through. You know, and I think that, you know, wrestling, first of all, bodybuilding, these certain sports kind of are a breeding ground for the type of people that fight through things to get to their next goal. So it's like if you're setting a goal to be in TNA again, you're going to do everything you can to get there. If you set a goal of going to the stage to compete in men's physique, you're going to do anything you can to get there. If you set a goal to being clean from drugs, you're going to set the goal and do everything you can. So it's kind of like a mindset that, you know, a lot of these athletes, you know, are hooked on these different drugs and stuff. Like, you know, the painkillers, I think back in the late 90s, early 2000s in wrestling in general. I mean, I remember the guys having giant bottles of Vicodin and stuff.
Yes.
And the doctor would just be like, here. It's like, you know, 500 of those blue Vicodin in a bottle, and you're like, holy shit, like it was no big deal. I just don't feel like I see the guys nowadays being the same way. I think they figured out what was going on and they don't do it.
No joke, and I'm not saying this because I don't even work there, so I have no reason to put them over whatsoever, but WWE's drug testing right now is insane. It's the most stringent drug testing. It's more than NFL, more than, and you name it. It is impossible. You can't cheat their tests. It is so freaking stringent. It's not even funny. They're very, very, since the Chris Benoit, you know, murder suicide.
Yeah.
Congress mandated them to start doing testing, and when they put so much money and resources into it that's why you're seeing a lot of smaller guys nowadays, or you know, younger looking guys, and that's why the style is now changing as well because of that. But I think in the longevity, it is for the best.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, they also had these guys getting popped. Like I think Rob Van Dam and Louis Spicolli had gotten popped driving around with tons of Soma, that they were addicted to and stuff in the ECW days. Like, you were hearing about these guys getting in trouble. Like, Kurt Angle got busted with a bunch of painkillers or something like that. And you're like, holy shit. Like, that whole era, it seems like almost like the Attitude Era. Everybody was loading up on everything. Yeah. And, it, since they went PG, I think if it just it wouldn't look good for the company if these guys were getting popped. Oh, and it's a PG company, and, it's not a good look. But it's... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
They're also looking much more into their wellness. When the guys come up in their training now and they start and they get signed and they don't know what they're doing and they teach them how to wrestle now at the performance center, it's not like it was. They don't teach you how to, like, the back bump and flip bump. They put them in freaking helmets and neck protectors. It's insane in a good way. So they're taking so much risk of injury out of the equation. And they're making the guys work smarter in the ring now, except for a lot of them do a lot of dives now, which isn't exactly safe. Yeah. But I think because they're undersized and smaller, their bodies, for whatever rhyme or reason, can take it more than a bigger, jacked up guy could. When a bigger, jacked up guy gets hurt, that's a long, lingering injury usually. And hence the painkillers. Yeah. It makes sense. You're on the road 5 days a week, and if you don't wrestle, you're not there to make the town, you're not going to make the money you're supposed to be making. Right. You won't even make a fraction of it. So it teaches you, I've got to keep going on the road. I cannot miss it for any rhyme or reason. No injury, tough shit. We'll work around it. I'll gobble up 5 perks and I'll be fine. Yeah. How many times? Everybody's done that a million times. Today, they don't do it anymore. It's not like that. Yeah. If you're taking painkillers, you better have a prescription and a half as to why. And the doctors nowadays, they're not even giving out the painkillers like they once used to. Yeah. They're looking in other routes way, way, way before. I myself had 3 teeth pulled at once, and I refused to not only not even go under, but the dentist was like, you need to take this prescription at least for after. I'm like, Doc, I'm an addict. You're not hearing me. I cannot do this. I cannot take that. And if I take it, I'm just going to throw it out. Yeah. He goes, in my 60 years, he was an old dentist. In my 60 years, nobody's ever been able to not take painkillers after having their teeth pulled. I go, I'm going to be the first. You shouldn't have just said that. 'Cause now I'm gonna be and that's all I had in my head was him saying that, and almost like cocky saying it to me, like dangling it in front of the
like you can't do it. Yeah. Well, sometimes they don't get it. When I tore my rotator cuff, the pain I can't describe the pain that was in my shoulder, and I tore the bicep tendon as well. I went to the doctor and I couldn't lift my arm. I couldn't lay down. I couldn't sit up. It's weird the pain that you would feel. And she looks at it. She diagnoses it. She goes, I'm going to give you a prescription for Vicodin. I said, Doc, I'm allergic to painkillers. She looked at me. She goes, you're allergic? I said, I'm allergic to hydrocodone, oxycodone. I'm allergic to them. And she goes, oh, okay, I'll give you 800 milligram Motrin. And I remember my girlfriend at the time going, why did you tell her you were allergic to them? It's like, because if I tell her I'm an addict, they're like, don't worry about it. You can take them anyways and be fine. You tell them you're allergic, they don't want to get sued if you go into shock from taking them. So they just kind of, automatically, like my wife now knows that if something happens to me, not to, she's also a nurse, a registered nurse who does cardiovascular surgeries. Really so she knows there's another drug that they can give you that has no side effects whatsoever, and it's not an opiate. And if you go into a hospital looking for opiates, they know you're there for opiates. They give you this instead. And it usually pisses them off and they leave. But it's like there's other things that they can recommend so that I'm not going to get hooked on that stuff like that. So as far as injuries, do you have anything that's a long-lasting injury now?
Yeah, good. Of course. Back. From my first year in the business, I got two discs in my L5 area, L3, L5, that are blown into bunches of pieces. And then in my neck, I have one as well. I have 3 different discs collectively that are just chipped all over the place, right? I need surgery. Yeah. And every once in a while, ironically, when I'm posing, not when I'm wrestling for whatever reason, but when I'm posing and hitting certain poses and certain angles where I turn my waist, every once in a while, it'll rub right on that nerve. And I'll get that left numbness down my left hamstring all the way down to my foot, and my foot will start shaking up on stage. And it's every once in a while, though, not very often. And but that's mainly it, my neck and my back. But nothing crazier than anybody else that's wrestling.
I mean, that's pretty good.
What I was going to say, though, to the people listening about what I was with the dentist story, when I had my 3 teeth pulled, this is not like trying to Matt Morgantown tough guy story. What I'm trying to tell the people is, any of you that are addicts, what I did was I took, I believe it was 3 extra strength Tylenols, and I believe it was 800 milligrams total of ibuprofen combined. I think that's what I did. And I'm not exaggerating. I was able to get through it just fine. I was in a little bit of pain, but nothing what I would have been in without that Tylenol and ibuprofen combination. Right. So that stuff really does work. We try to tell ourselves it doesn't, and painkillers will be so much better, and I'm sure they will, but that stuff really legitimately works if you combo it together.
Well, some of the doctors claim it doesn't. Not that it doesn't work, but they're like, you need this, you need this. You know?
I swear to God, it did for me. I had 3 teeth pulled. I would be crying otherwise.
My wife had her wisdom tooth pulled, and they gave her the script, and she filled it. She didn't take it. She's like, I don't need it. Took a little bit of Advil or whatever, you know, and it was only one tooth, but at the same time, they gave her like a whole script for like a tooth pull, and I was like, holy shit! Back in the day, you know, like I would have been like, yeah, I got so much pain, I need more. You know, I'd run through 30 in like a day, and you know, sitting there begging them for more. Now, running with the whole pain thing, I know that you're an advocate of the CBD oil, and I've been taking it for about probably 2 months now. I started taking it for inflammation for my bicep tendon, and I wound up finding out that my anxiety that I have naturally was like gone. Like, I mean, gone with this stuff. And then I saw that you were using it with your son. He has some mobility problems with his shoulder. Is that what it is? Or
no. My son is autistic.
Okay. So how are you using it with him for
autism?
Yes.
That's how he's not using the balm now. We give him the drops in his bottle.
Oh, I thought you were using the balm. Okay.
I do use the balm for myself for injuries.
Oh, okay.
All right. But the more important thing here is that my autistic 3-year-old is able to take it and get great functionality from it. The way it was explained to me by a holistic doctor was we all have these, what is it?
Cannabinoid receptors.
Yeah. Right. And we all supposedly can absolutely use this. It's like we could a B12 shot or a B6 or things like that. Sorry about that noise.
That's all right.
And with my son Jackson, there is no exaggeration. Look, I don't smoke weed. I don't like feeling down, so I don't like that, right?
Yeah.
So I have no reason to exaggerate this story here when it comes to cannabis, which has no THC in it, all right, which is the thing that makes us high.
Right.
But the cannabis, the oil, the CBD oil, we give him 2 drops in his bottle in the morning, 2 microscopic drops at nighttime in his bottle before he goes to bed. That's the only way we can get him to do his vitamins is in a bottle and mix it up with water. Mm-hmm. Water and milk a little bit. That's the only way he'll take. We can't put it in his mouth because he flips.
Yeah.
He wigs out. He's autistic. So with his autism, what we've noticed is his one-step directions have improved. He went from little things like taking just 2 pedals on his tricycle to literally a week later after, you know, he'd been on it for 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, 8 pedals, 9 pedals, 10 pedals, just taking his backpack. No one's ever taught him this. Walks it right up to the counter, takes it off his own shoulders, puts it up on the counter. He's nonverbal as well. My son can't speak. Mm-hmm. He just makes noises right now, and we're trying to work with him on speaking. And that's where we're looking for these alternative medicines to help our son get better. And CBD oil popped up in every search, and there's so many success stories. If anybody out there has anybody in their family with even ADD, ADHD, any learning disabilities, autism, you name it, it's the most multifaceted thing I've ever seen. It's not just for people with these disabilities, these learning disabilities that I'm saying, or mental disabilities or anything like that. It helps for pain. It's just so many different things it works for. I'm blown away by it. Anybody watching this, look it up yourselves. Don't even listen to either of us. Do your own research. Look up third-party testimonies on CBD oil. And I particularly like to use Kono Naturals. I trust the company. I know the manufacturer, and so I trust what they're putting in it. And that's what we've been seeing a significant growth in our son with, and I swear by it. That and another product called, oh, good Lord. God, I always brain farts. Seriously. Is
it from the same company, or it's
17 concussions will do it to you. God, no, I was just talking about it last night on my Instagram. Oh, God, what is it? Neural Balance is the name of it's a powder, and that's something else. It's a supplement that we put in our kid's bottle as well, and that helps with his brain function. His basically it's what it is. It's called NeuroBalance, so it works with his neuroreceptors. Where my son has a natural instinct, he sees things completely different. People with autism see the world 180 degrees different from me and you. Right. They see it in colors and shapes and noises, and they're very turned on by that, right? That's what it allures them. So, like, let's say the middle of the street, my kid sees all these kids playing in the street. He looks at it like a giant-ass playground. Right. And what terrifies me is he doesn't see it as dangerous.
Right.
You know, and no matter how times I yell, no, Jackson, get out of it. You know, he doesn't understand. He can't understand what I'm saying. He's autistic and he's nonverbal. So tried him on the neurobalance, and about 4 months into it, because it's like a vitamin, it needs to work itself into his blood system.
Yeah.
It was starting to work as far as him being able to pick up on my no's, you know, like really digging into him on no. You know, he was starting to understand a little bit better. And his listening, and for kids that have ADD, for instance, it's great for it as well, because it's a natural calming effect on somebody that has ADD or hyperactivity disorder as well. And it's called neural balance.
Neural balance. I'm going to check into that stuff. I actually started taking the CBD oil for inflammation. My anxiety was gone. I slept better. I actually took it on when I went to Australia. The plane ride was like, for a day. And I kind of get a little tense on the plane. I've never been in a plane for that long. So I took it while I was on the plane. I was fine. And we saw, it's funny that you mentioned the autism, because I didn't know it was being used with that, but there was a video that I reposted on my Facebook of, he was a younger kid that had autism, and he was very self-abusive. I mean, he really beat himself up, like bloodied himself. They couldn't do anything with him. He was nonverbal. I mean, he was really, really bad. They had to actually put him in a home because the parents couldn't take care of him. And they went through every drug you could think of. And somewhere they read the CBD oil, and they were hesitant because it came from marijuana, like all the stereotypes and stigmas that you have.
Yes.
And they gave him, it's like 3 doses a week. It's super concentrated. They go to the home 3 a week, and they showed a video of him sitting down with his little brother and smiling, and like no violence whatsoever. And they're like, look, the doctors are telling us we don't know what the long-term effects are. They're like, but he's not going to have a long-term effect if he kills himself before that, And they're like, but how can something that's been around for 3,000 years and there is no overdose? You'd have to take in 1,500 pounds of marijuana in 15 minutes to overdose. That was the statistic. I was like, wow, I never thought about it. But they're saying it's not safe. They're like, but look at him. Now he lives.
But here's the best part. It's not marijuana still has the THC part in it, though. This doesn't have the THC. You cannot get high.
Well, they're finding that now, that if this does hit the market to a certain degree where it's marketed bigger than it is now, $18.5 billion a year the medical industry will lose due to the drugs that they're not going to be able to use for autism, cancer, because this stuff cures cancer too, supposedly. All the different things, ADD. I mean, think about all the Xanax prescriptions and Buspar and all that stuff are no longer.
What tough shit.
I get it, man. I hear you 100%. But that's why they're fighting it. Big Pharma's fighting it, and kratom is another natural herb that replaces opiates. So if you wanted to get off opiates, you don't want Suboxone. Kratom is a plant you can take. And Chris Bell, who did Bigger, Stronger, Faster, who's a really good friend of mine, him, if you go look at his he's actually marched on Federal Hill, here on Capitol Hill rather, to stop the ban of kratom, and they actually stopped it. They were going to ban it because it literally can take the place of any opiate for pain without the side effects. Wow. And they so far it's an herb, and it can't be patented, and it can't be pulled off the market because it's natural. And they fought it, and so far it's still legal. But Big Pharma really tried to squash that quick, so that they could continue. Because now OxyContin, because it's being kind of less promoted in America, it's being really promoted in other countries. They've branched out into other countries, and they're actually prescribing it for 11 years old and up now, based on certain conditions.
Holy crap!
Which I'm sure and I know. 11 years old, it's not good.
That's ridiculous.
So let's I just got one more question, man. I didn't mean to take up all your time. I figured about 25 minutes. So the last question I have is, what would you tell a 21-year-old Matt Morgan now? Like, what's one thing you would go back? If you could go back, you jump in Doc's time machine and Back to the Future, and you guys take off, and you take off, and you get there. 21-year-old Matt Morgan standing there. He's probably not going to listen to you anyways, no matter what you say to him. But
oh gosh, you can stump me kind of here. I don't even know. I think it would just be, you're going to be all right. You're not going to be in jail. You're not going to be dead. You're going to be successful. You're going to be married to your college sweetheart. You're going to have a child, even though doctors for 10 years told you in the future, doctors are going to tell you for 10 more years you have no chance of having children together. And you're going to have this miracle baby together. He's going to have autism, and you're going to be the most kick-ass parents for that little boy. And you're going to go on to make a major, major statement with your son's autism, because he's going to overcome his nonverbal abilities. And because of that, you're going to touch a lot of others' lives. You're going to touch others' lives with your own addiction, trials and tribulations. The wrestling, that's just a small part of it, Matt. you're about to get into pro wrestling. You're going to be excited. You're going to be stoked when you get your first action figure. But when all that shit passes, Matt, that's all temporary. The lasting shit that's going to be in your life is going to be the mark you leave with talking about addiction to those people, with Darren Powell going into schools, and raising that 3-year-old little beautiful boy of yours with your wife.
That's awesome, man. Well, Matt, I appreciate you taking the time on Father's Day. I know you guys had a busy day, and you still made the time to do this. Anytime, I can get some more time that you want to come back on, we can talk about
Please.
Whatever. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm going to be making my way down to Tampa probably in July at some point. So when I get down there, you're in Orlando, right?
Yeah.
Okay, which is not that far. So, I mean, hopefully we can meet up while we're down there. So let me know if you need anything. Hopefully we'll talk soon and get you back on here, man.
I would love to be on. We got more to talk about. Classic, men's physique. I'm the world's largest men's physique competitor.
How many weeks you got left?
Isn't that being like the world's tallest midget? The world's biggest men's physique competitor?
Well, how many weeks you got? 6 weeks left, or is it?
Oh, boy. 9 weeks.
9 weeks, man. Maybe we'll have you back on afterwards so you can tell us how it feels to not be sitting around watching everyone else eat.
Oh, we done the interview. All right, let's do it.
All right, brother. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it, man. Take care.
My honor. Big fan, Jerry.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, brother. Bye.
Bye.